Hey there, guys. I wanted to drop in real quick to talk to you about a brand new offer that I've put together just for you. It truly is going to revolutionize the way that you do business. I am offering a 90-minute strategy session that's also going to give you a visual roadmap that will guide you over the next 6 months to be able to accomplish any author goal you want to make happen. So here's the thing, we all need some one-on-one guidance sometimes. And the whole idea behind this is to give you the one-on-one personalized experience that you're really craving and get you on the road to your greatest success, right? That's all we really want for you. So if you're curious about how this is going to work, head over to authorrevolution.org/visual map and learn more about it today. Welcome to the Author Revolution podcast, where change is not just embraced, it's celebrated. I'm Carissa Andrews, international best-selling author, indie author coach, and your navigator through the ever-evolving landscape of authorship. Are you ready to harness the power of your mind and the latest innovations in technology for your writing journey? If you're passionate about manifesting your dreams and pioneering new writing frontiers, then you're in the perfect place. Here, we merge the mystical woo of writing with the exciting advancements of the modern world. We dive into the realms of mindset, manifestation, and the transformative magic that occurs when you believe in the impossible. We also venture into the world of futuristic technologies and strategies, preparing you for the next chapter in your author career. Every week, we explore new ways to revolutionize your writing and publishing experience. From AI to breakthrough thinking, this podcast is your gateway to a world where creativity meets innovation. Whether you're penning your first novel or expanding your literary empire, whether you're a devotee of the pen or a digital storyteller, this podcast is where your author revolution gains momentum. So join me in this journey to continue growth and transformation. It's time to redefine what it means to be an author in today's dynamic world. This is the Author Revolution podcast, and your author revolution starts now. Hey guys, welcome back to the Author Revolution podcast. Oh my gosh, guys, today we have such an interesting interview that I cannot wait to share with you. Roy Osing is with us, and he is one of those types of people that you're going to want to grab a notebook with, get ready to take some notes, because if you want to do the unconventional, if you're ready to disrupt your author career, if you want to take on some new strategies that will blow other people's minds, this podcast episode is going to do it for you. Because there are some strategies that Roy and I discuss in this interview that I have never heard before. And I have been around the indie author sphere for a while, as you know. And so when I heard some of these techniques and the the interesting discussions and the different methodologies that Roy uses, I was flabbergasted. And to be perfectly honest, I was absolutely enamored. So I have done a lot of the work that Roy has talked about. In fact, I have his books now. I'm going through them. They are so powerful and so well written that I am just, I'm in love with his teaching techniques. And I just love anything that's going to, break us out of the box of being, the normal, boring people that we sometimes are, right? So without further ado, I'm going to let Roy's conversation speak for itself because he has some absolute golden nuggets in this podcast interview. Make sure you have your pen and paper ready because he's going to give you some step-by-step instructions. But the biggest one, my favorite one, is the only statement. But you're going to need to know how to create an only statement and how that works for you. So get ready, buckle up. Here is an excellent interview. Well, hi, Roy. Welcome to the Author Revolution podcast. I'm really excited about this conversation today because we were just getting into it just a bit before we got started. But before we go further, before we really dive in, can you tell my audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a guy from a small town in British Columbia, Canada, who grew up in the outdoors with my parents doing all of the things that kids love to do, right? In terms of skiing and fishing and hunting and just like being in the outdoors. And I sort of always had a view of and a desire and a drive to kind of do things the way that other people didn't do it. And so part of my background is rooted in disruption and contrarianism, I'm pretty sure.
I love
And
that.
it, well, and it I mean, I didn't know it at the time. It's just been through conversations like this that I've realized that it started really, really, really young and probably manifested itself in many encounters and, getting heck for this and heck for that and called out for this and called out for that. And I could never understand what was going on. And then it occurred to me many years later that what was going on is I was disrupting people's traditional thought and ways of doing things. And I actually had the opportunity to leverage that into a successful organization. But so my childhood was kind of like that. I ended up graduating from university with a math degree. I don't know where that came from, but I've never used
How can
differential
you disrupt
equations.
things with math? Come on, Roy.
Exactly the point. Exactly the point. And so clearly I didn't because I never solved a problem using a differential equation in my life, but I could do it if I had to, but it didn't seem to make any sense.
Sure.
And I joined a telephone company when I graduated from university. So it was a monopoly telephone company that I got involved with and started to learn a little bit about business. And I kind of like strategically meandered around and up the organization because I was one of these guys that always questioned stuff, was never happy with the status quo. And I was always saying, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? Why can't we do it differently, et cetera? And I guess people got captured by that because eventually I was asked to take on the leadership role of an internet company just starting out, and we took it to from a monopoly organization to a competitive powerhouse that was generating value to the tune of $1 billion in annual revenue. It's just I get goosebumps when I think about what we were
Right?
able to achieve together. It was amazing. And then so what I did with that eventually is I moved on and I've written 7 books around the whole notion of be different or be dead. And so I guess if I could describe my journey, it would be sort of achiever, leader, author, not the other way around. I've never viewed myself as an author ever. I
Yeah,
viewed myself
interesting.
as a guy that's done stuff and I have an ability to communicate. And if you want to put an authorship tag on that, fine. But that's not who Roy is. I'm a guy that gets stuff done, doing things differently, and I can write about it and hopefully convey that to people in a way that lights their fires and gets them to do things differently.
Right, right. I think it's so important to be able to look at things differently. So I think that's definitely your superpower to be able to understand, first of all, to ask those questions because so many people don't. They don't think about asking, but why? Why are we doing it this way? Does this make sense? Can we do it better? Like that is definitely a unique skill for some and a learned skill for others. You know what I mean? And obviously this is one that was just unique to you that you had innately about you. I think that's really cool. Yeah.
Well, I did it because I needed to. Yeah,
Yeah.
this wasn't, I didn't create it because it was just kind of a cool thing to do. I did it because in order to take this business where it had to go, we had to stand out in a way that people cared about. We had to be different and differentiate ourselves in a way. And the tools that I had were completely incapable of getting me there. They were standard, what I call textbook bullshit, quite frankly. They
Yeah.
weren't very helpful at all. And so I had to create my own set of tools where
Right.
people were saying, Roy, what are you doing? What is this hiring for goosebumps all about? I'd be out there actually doing it, lighting fires and getting people to say, hey, love the vision, love the journey. Let's go, Roy. We're there with you. And so the other thing is I have to say it's really hard for individuals to break away, okay, from traditional thought, from the sort of momentum of the past, because the education system doesn't really make it that easy, okay? Because we
Right.
get A's when we conform. We get A's when we apply formulas to problems that, quite frankly, should never be formularized. I mean, a business problem is not a problem typically that can be formularized because you're dealing with human beings. And
Right.
no human being can be actually, converted into a series of dependent and independent variables, regardless of what the AI experts say. We'll get into that later because I got issues with AI. And so and so it's not really their fault and it's hard. It's like they would love to do this. They would love to break away, but it's so hard to do it. And quite often they get punished for doing it. I mean, I've seen people in
Yeah.
organizations get punished. Well, how can you encourage people to step out and create new boxes to play in when they get punished every time they try it? Kind of difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Kind
that
of
it
difficult.
it makes people not want to ideate. That's for certain. Yeah, it's not a good environment for that. And those
No.
people who are high in ideation, which it sounds like you are, my husband is as well. It's like I can see that in that differentiation because some of my kids are very much the check the boxes, do the A's, follow the rules, and some of the kids are not. And it's, when you look at the way the ideators really work with things versus the way the people who are just following the rules work with things, it's great. I mean, it's great that you can follow rules. It's great that you can work within a system to a degree, but in order to really go places, I think you do have to go further. You have to have those be different moments. So, okay, Roy, your journey is obviously one of thinking and acting outside this conventional box. Can you share a moment or experience that really sparked this commitment that you talked about briefly about the be different or be dead philosophy? Like, was there a particular challenge that made you realize that the methods wouldn't cut it, or was it just literally who you were, like you were saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, at everybody asks me what was the tipping point, and I say there wasn't one. I guess it was when I was born. So maybe that point
The
of my
universal
mother
energies
giving.
converged.
I mean, that's just it. The solar system goes, oh no, here comes
What did
this
we just
new.
drop?
What did we just drop? But no, there wasn't. I honestly, and I've been asked this question before as well, and I never realized it until I started getting asked regularly that it was really the spirit of my mother, I believe, that drove me to do what I did, to drove me to be who I were. I mean, she was in a family of 12 in a little
Okay.
place in Quebec called Gaspé in the day. And so if you happen to have 11 siblings and there's limited resources at the table, there's one thing you learn, and that is you fight, right? You assert
Yeah.
yourself, you fight, because we're talking about basic needs here, right? On
Yeah.
Maslow's theory of it's not the wants or what, it's basically you need to eat. And
Yeah.
so I think she was a driven woman. She was tenacious. She was a protector. She was just everything you wanted out of a mentor, which of course I never told her, which I regret because I didn't know it at the time. But now I do. It's a
Sure.
thanks, mom. You created this person anyways. And so it went back to that. And I've always had it in my veins. I'm very competitive, as you could probably get just for my speaking. I'm very competitive. And I discovered that the secret to winning is all about differentiation. It's not about following the rules. It's being different in a way that other people care about. And I just need to clarify that because a lot of people get the wrong impression. They think, well, okay, my hair's red. I'm different. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I don't care about the color of your hair. I don't care about your sexual preferences. I don't care about your pronouns. And I sure as hell don't care about the color of your skin. What I care about is how you are going to be unique, special, and different in a way that other people care about. So it's about a mechanism to serve others in a unique way, in a way that nobody's ever thought about. By the way, that's the success formula for business. I
For
just
sure.
gave it to you. It's got nothing to do with anything else. It's about being different in a way people care about. And so it occurred to me very, very early on that I needed to figure out a way how to do that. And when I got this opportunity to take over this company, that was a huge challenge because we were coming out of a monopoly area and we had to reposition ourselves. And you're going to get into it, but I created a tool called the only statement, which is frickin' brilliant.
I love
It
it.
just cuts through the clutter, and that's the way to create this kind of unique persona that I think people should be seeking to get, as opposed to being a member of the herd.
Well, let's get into that then. So, for authors who are striving to stand out, because obviously we all are, the marketplace is very, very crowded.
Yeah,
Tell us what this only statement is and like how could an indie author possibly use it in order to
yeah.
leverage themselves up?
Great question. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of background education around this because it's not a tactic. Okay. It's the point I want to make. This is not sort of, oh, let's take the only statement tactic off the shelf, right? And if we follow the rules, we'll suddenly be different and, we will suddenly have the wealth of the
What
world.
do you mean it's
It's
not
not,
following rules, Roy?
it's not that easy. It's not that easy. It actually is a piece of a process that I had to create to actually get the business on the right track. And it's called a strategic game planning process. Okay, so I'm going right back to the basic. When I had to get going on this thing, the first thing I realized is there weren't any planning tools around to help me. None, because they
Sure.
all were focused on what I would call kind of like textbook principles and not what I wanted to do. I didn't want the principles. I wanted to know how to execute. Okay, because performance does not come from the mind. Performance comes from the gut and the heart when you actually do something. Okay, and that's what I would say to the dudes who are ideators, by the way. I get you. I want you to
Yeah.
come one more step with me. Okay,
Yep.
because I don't care about an idea that can't be executed because it doesn't
Yep.
have any economic value, right? And so
Sure.
I'm driven by all this stuff. So I create this planning process, which, by the way, it's been so much fun. I'm working with small business. We do this in 48 hours. So my pitch is, okay, can you give me 48 hours to create the future of your company? And they go, 48 hours. Oh, yeah. Or are you telling me you can't give me 48 hours? You don't want to create value in 48.
Right.
Simple process, has 3 questions. Okay. You answer these 3 questions, and I'm going to get to the only statement in a minute, but not without dragging you through the strategic context. So you got to go
Okay.
through this, right? So the first thing is, how big do you want to be? Now that's a declaration of growth. So for an author, it could be in 24 months. Okay, I want to generate 1.5 million out of my book sales. Could be that, or it could be something else. Now, you notice I said 24 months because the planning period for my process is not 5 years, because the fourth year or the fifth year never show up. Okay, they
Sure.
just never show up. Not only that, you can't execute now to get a result in 4 years and really be excited about it. You execute
Right.
now to get
Yeah.
results now. Okay.
Yep.
My planning process says in 24 months, do you want to be a $500,000 author? Do you want to be $1 million author? Now, the reason we start out with the numbers first is the numbers declare and describe the risk and the character of the strategy. It's a completely
Sure.
different thing if you want to get 5 million than if you want to get 1 million. And yet the
Okay.
traditional planning processes always end up by calculating the numbers at the end. It's ridiculous.
Isn't
Okay.
that
So
crazy?
my process says declare, because we're going to build a strategy to deliver how big. And I want you to get used to my nomenclature now, because I'm going to be
Yep.
referring to this throughout the whole interview, right? And for
Yep.
your audience, it ain't about revenue necessarily. It's about how big. It actually is about revenue, but the name is how big.
Yep.
Second question says, who do you intend to serve? That's a question about where you're going to get the money.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is really critical for every business, every author, every publisher, because it says we need to select a few customer groups that have the latent potential to deliver the how big. This is not a game of mass markets. This is not a game of mass audiences. This is a game of selective who's. Okay, and of
Right.
course, we want to make them as few as possible because we have limited resources. We can't spread ourselves over 1 million customer segments, but maybe we can do a decent job on 3 or 4. The challenge here is, how much do you really know about your customer base? Because if you know nothing, you're going to take the easy marketing way out. You're going to try and flog your book to 1 million people. You will fail. You will
Yeah.
absolutely fail. And by the way, that's laziness anyways. And so let's say
I love
I'm
that.
tough. I got to be tough on ourselves. We got to
I
be tough
love
on
it.
ourselves.
No, go for it.
So, who do you want to serve? Now, within that who, we're now going to ask the question. Now that we've got our 3 customer groups, the next question we're going to ask is, what do they crave? Not what do they need, because that's not a basis for competing. The
Yeah.
craving market, though, is an interesting one because prices are insensitive and competition is few and far between. Why? Because nobody plays there. It's as simple as that, right?
Sure.
So we
Sure.
got the who, we know what they crave. Now, the third question, I'm getting to the only statement. The third question is, how do you intend to compete and win in the who groups that you've just described? Again, it's not about the mass market.
Yep.
This is where the only statement comes in, because the basis for how you're going to compete and win is all about differentiation. And so it would go something like this. We intend to compete and win by being the only ones who ... And the strategy process is to now create an only statement that's relevant to the who and what they crave. Okay.
Love
So
it.
you can't
Yeah.
start out, because if you start out, okay, creating an only statement, it will be about you. It will be about your view of you. It will be the ultimate narcissistic statement you've ever seen. And it will
Sure.
not resonate necessarily with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
people that you're trying to target. Okay, so the only statement is part of a process. And for you authors out there, You need to take a step back. You need to figure out what your strategic game plan is. I had to do this. It was easier for me because I knew I had to do this because I moved from leadership out of business into writing. But
Yeah,
I think this way all the time. It's called context. And I have to tell you, Carissa, there's so much tactical work and thinking going on in the world today. It's like if I have a tactic, I get pretty well proved that it does anything because I don't have any strategic context. Okay, so
sure.
the only statement is the way to differentiate, but it needs to be an expression of a strategic game plan that is not painful to do. Trust me, I had to do this quick and dirty and just about right and imperfect in order to launch this business on a trajectory that got us to $1 billion in sales. So I can tell you it works. And again, the other principle here, when you think about the only statement, you need to think about words like unpopular. You need to think about words like non-compliant. You need to think about words like disruptive. And the
Yep.
reason for that is it will force you to start thinking about what makes you special and unique in a herd of sameness, because that's the world we're in.
I love
Everybody's
it.
aspiring to be like everybody else. And quite frankly, it's nauseating.
It is. So what, okay, I gotta understand this only statement. Is this now just something that your business operates out of? Or is this something that you actually start describing to your customers so they understand that you're the only one
Oh,
who like,
absolutely.
yeah,
Oh no, this is your elevator speech. Okay, let me give you an example. Okay, where is it? Is it here? Oh, it's in the next one. When somebody says, "Okay, what kind of an author are you, Roy?" Well, first of all, I give them heck and tell them I'm not an author. As per
right.
our I'm kind of like an achiever, leader. Oh yeah, and I can write. But if you had to break it down, my only statement is as follows: Roy Osing is the only entrepreneur, executive leader, and author who delivers practical and proven audacious, unheard of ways, because nobody else talks about it that way, to build high performing businesses and successful careers.
Love
You
it.
market that. That's who I am. That's my business. And if somebody says, "Oh yeah," all right, part of the process is I break that down into proof points. I mean, so
Yep.
there's a process here, but absolutely. Now, what happens is it's a draft. Okay, I want to make the point. It's always a draft. Why? You'll never get it perfect because the world won't let you. The world
Sure.
changes on you too quickly. Okay, so
Yep.
it's kind of comforting to know I can launch this and I know it's a draft and I can change it tomorrow. Typically, you don't have to if you get it just about right. You know, the world will allow you to use it for a while. But guess what you do? You take that only statement as a draft, you go back to your who, and you say, "Hey, is this right? Did I get it right for you? Is it relevant to what you crave?" I wouldn't use the word crave, but is it relevant to what you think, what keeps you awake at night? And do I do it? And so that dialogue is amazing. So authors, go talk to your prospective buyers and ask and say, "Here's what I think makes me unique. What do you guys think?" Have you ever done that? It's
That's,
scary. You need to do
yeah.
that. You need
Yeah.
to do that. Yeah. So that's the only thing. It's the way to get rid of the claptrap that's out there that talks about we're better, we're best, we're number one, we're the leader, all that nonsensical, meaningless stuff that all
Yeah.
it does is contaminate the verbal environment with stuff that doesn't make a damn bit of meaning to anybody.
That is such a great segue. So my next question was, in an industry, obviously that can be riddled with cliches and oversaturated marketing tactics, because I've been in this industry for over a decade and we're doing the same things, circling the same cycles, whatever. How can authors apply your concept of cutting through the claptrap or aspirations and narcissism to genuinely connect with the readers so that they can
Yeah.
actually have that conversation?
And I'm going to be repetitive intentionally, okay, through this because it has to be repeated. The only way, the only way to cut through the claptrap is to be the only one that does what you do. Let
Right.
me repeat that. If you want to cut through narcissism, claptrap, and aspirations, you need to be the only one who does what you do. Okay, that's the holy grail. That's the quest. That's the end result. That's the end game that we all need to be seeking. Because if we don't, it forces us to come up with these grandiose notions that we have of ourselves. The
Right.
ultimate expression of narcissism is what you think of you. That's not what business and transactions are all about. A transaction happens when you transact value. Okay, so the only statement is a source, a value transaction that's meaningful to the other person, the who, in terms of what they crave. So if you can think of that conceptually and start to work through it, you can't do it overnight. Okay, I
For
mean, I didn't
sure.
arrive. I learned this through failure and pain and agony. I learned that pain is a strategic concept, by the way. So
Okay. Okay.
I arrived there, and you know what? When I look back on it, I go, there was no other way. But I'm here to say, I'm here to help you. Okay, because I know this stuff works. There's no need for you to claim that you're better and have somebody roll their eyes at you. There's
Sure.
no need for that.
So
So the
what about those
claptrap,
authors who already have like a backlist of titles? They wrote kind of what they wanted to write. They didn't necessarily think about their reader in mind, other than the fact that they were a reader, and so they hope that those two things sync up. How do they then create an only statement to differentiate them if they already have things that they've done, but they're now seeing that maybe the direction should be different, or that the readers that they're trying to target actually crave something slightly different from what they wrote?
yeah. So I'm not going to ask you to burn your books or throw away your digital files. What I will
Right.
say to you is there is a way out, okay, but it has to be the right way out. You don't throw your hands up in the air. So what you do, you take a deep breath, you take a step back, and you do the work. Okay, only this time it has a slightly different kind of like slant to it. So let me give you an example. You still do your how big, you still do your who and what they crave, right? And you still do your only statement. And now you look at the portfolio of products you have, i.e., books, right? And you segment them according to what you just learned about the who. And now you
Okay.
try and find a way to connect, okay, those clusters of that cluster of content with a specific who group. And the communications, okay, that you now start to make are based on the only statement that you've come up with. So you're not going to get a perfect fit, but this isn't a perfect world. But I will
Right.
tell you, you will get a 50% better fit by going back and doing the work than you will if you just said, oh, well, I'm going to keep flogging at content.
Sure.
You now have to give it context. You didn't create the content out of context, okay? But now what you have to do is you have to give it context by
Right.
creating the context and the strategy around it. And that's not a difficult thing to do, guys. It's just not. And it's so important. And once you do that, you will feel so good about the content you've created because you will be giving it strategic meaning, okay, that will
Sure.
serve you financially in a way that differentiates you from everybody else out there who are still flogging words against a whiteboard and hoping it will stick.
Right.
Yeah, give
Right.
it some stickiness. This is all about giving it some stickiness. By the way, I've never thought about it this way before. I keep coming up with different ways of learning about my work, and now I've got this stickiness thing that I got to write down. Could you text it to me? Because I'll forget it by the time we're finished.
I will try. I will try. Too funny. Okay, so leadership in the context of authorship can be elusive. Like we don't really look at ourselves necessarily as leaders unless we are writing nonfiction or teaching what we are doing. What does it mean to be a fingerprint leader in the writing community? And how can authors leverage this to influence both their readership and the industry?
Yeah, I love this question, by the way, because I looked at it and I go, huh. So you made
Did I stump you?
so you made no well, temporarily.
Okay,
But,
whew, temporary.
yes, you did. You got me temporarily. You made me think. So I came up with this notion that, by the way, it is exceedingly relevant. And it's all around what I would say you do you. Okay,
Okay,
people talk about that today. You need to do you. In this context, it's really, really important because leadership for an author is about you doing you, not having them do you, not having other people do you. And by that, I mean, you get into this realm of you need to do the work yourself. You can't be copying, you can't be benchmarking, you can't be following best practices, which are espoused by academics and pundits galore. And I've written so much about benchmarking. The most popular blog article I wrote was called Benchmarking Sucks. And it just like went crazy
I
because
love that.
that that's the source, right? That a lot of
Yeah,
people use. And unfortunately, it's in the they're doing you category as opposed to you taking leadership on you. So the fingerprints in this case relate to your personal identity, your DNA structure, right? You need to do that. You need to create something in the image of your DNA. That's fingerprint leadership to an author. Okay. So for me, I mean, it lands on the, like, I got proven ways of growing businesses that actually worked in the real world. So I can point to that, but everybody has got to create that for themselves. So if you
Right.
think about what are you doing to create you, to do you day in and day out. Just think about that. Okay. And put the textbook down, put Google down. I don't want you gargling Google, which is my favorite expression these days. There's too many people gargling the Google, like,
Right.
when confronted with a problem and so forth. You can't be putting your fingerprints on yourself when you're gargling other people's. And this will be
Yeah.
the first time that I introduce my concern about artificial intelligence,
Okay.
because what that is an aggregation of the herd. That's all it
Mm.
is. Okay. So if you want to use AI to produce something, shame on you. By the way, if you have AI running in the background, it will probably kick me out because I use the word shame, right? This actually happened to me. It happened
Really?
to me when another podcast, I did it and
Too
I
funny.
said, shame on you. And we were closing up, and the host started laughing, and she says, oh my God, my AI engine just kicked you out because you used the word shame. See, that's an example, okay,
Yeah.
of that aggregate tool, okay, that may be efficient, but it ain't fingerprint. And
Oh,
so
yeah,
be
for
really
sure.
careful, okay? Look at you got to show me that this tool even relates to individual creativity and people putting their fingerprint. It actually encourages dysfunctional authorship behavior, because
I
you
think
go
it depends on
searching
how you
for
use
what
it
the
for sure. Yeah.
well, I'm just saying, look at what I'm seeing. You can write anything in a day, in a half an hour. Try and convince me, okay? You'll have to convince me that that's a function of your brain and not the function of a million other brains who have provided
Yeah.
a couple of syllables in that one paragraph. Okay,
Sure.
that's
To
just
me,
kind of
it's
where
more
it
about
is.
using it in context of like ideation and brainstorming. So I teach authors how to brainstorm with AI, but not necessarily to write with it because I agree with you. It does not come out with the best material.
So, so I'm going to chastise you, okay?
Go
Because
for it. I'm
this is
ready.
not about brainstorming. If you
Yeah.
have built your strategy, okay, if you have a context, then you're allowed to be creative within that context. But you are not allowed to brainstorm out of context, because all you get is what other people think and what other
Sure. Yeah,
people
yeah.
would work for other people, okay? And so, come on. I mean, do the hard work. Maybe it's that we don't want to do the hard work anymore. I don't know, but I'm demoralized.
I'm wondering if it's also not having that framework. Like when you're doing a lot of things on your own. So this is coming from my solopreneur background. Doing a lot of things on your own, eventually you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm obviously cycling my own thoughts too much. I need to have outside input to be able to help me spark some new ideas. And so that's how I utilize it. It's more of a way to be able to do something that I am not currently doing or think in a way that I'm not currently thinking. Does that make sense?
Right?
Because I could go down and ask my husband, but
Yeah.
when he's sawing because he's remodeling my house, it's like he's not like that's what are you gonna
Well,
do?
well,
So
Well, one of the things I would suggest, look at, yeah, everybody is looking for new ideas, but you don't need a whole bunch.
oh
You need
yeah,
a few,
no.
you need a few relevant ones. And so I suggest go ask your who. Go
Oh,
have
that's
a
a good
go
point.
have a
Yeah.
session with a who. Go talk to the people that you're here to serve, not the academics that are trying to blow out an algorithm at you.
So
I'm
smart. That
sorry.
is actually really good. Well, and it's
Okay, I'm
about
sorry,
again
but
about
it's
having that context though. If you don't have that context of those three questions, and then the only statement to back it up so you know who you're trying to hunt down, of course. So it all cycles back around. That makes total sense to me.
isn't it amazing?
Yeah,
It actually makes sense.
it does. It does. How
It
weird.
is, look at,
Thank
and
goodness.
but you know what? Getting back to our conversation earlier, the world is about creating ideas and brainstorming. I've written a lot about. I think brainstorming is actually dysfunctional thinking. Okay,
Okay.
because it's operating typically the way people the way it's propagated and promulgated. It's not within a context. And I'll say it
Yeah.
again. Okay. And
Yeah.
I'll come at this contextual idea several ways because people learn about it differently. And if you
Sure.
have it that you've created about, now, there may very well be, and I know there are a lot of opportunities right, to deploy technologies, but it's within a context. Then I say, go fill your boots, Carissa. Go fill them full. I give you permission, but don't
Okay.
come to me and tell me that you're going to create context using these tactical tools. That's cheating.
Okay.
I'm not going to
Okay.
let you do that, but I will allow you to do it the other way around.
Sounds good to me. Oh, funny. Okay, so obviously you brought up Crave marketing, but I'm wondering what strategies would you recommend to authors to employ to make their books absolutely crave worthy to their target audience? Is it simply going out and then talking to them like you just said, or is there better ways to be able to get that information and really harness it?
Okay, so another great question. Loved your questions. The place to start, definitely, okay, to be repetitive, is we can have this conversation only because I know you've created your strategic game plan and you have an answer to all three questions. You know how big you want to be, you know who you want to serve and what they crave, and you have an only statement. Okay, now we can talk about, let's unpack the cravings piece, okay, of the who to serve part
Okay.
of the equation. Okay. And yes, I would say the first place to start, if you have five major customer groups, go have a conversation. Okay, ask them. You don't have to say, what do you crave? I mean,
Yeah.
there's
What
ways
makes
of,
you a voracious reader of X?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
makes you lust for? What do you really desire? What was that
Yeah.
movie? What was that
That was
show?
Lucifer, wasn't it?
Lucifer, the devil. Yeah, absolutely. He said, "What do you?" He
What
stole
is it
my
yours
line, by
desire? Yeah.
he stole my line. Anyways, go start having have a conversation, okay, and see where that goes. But here are some clues that, in retrospect, for me, that I guess fit in the question that you say. There are opportunities to create crave worthy content. Okay,
Okay. I'm all
content
ears.
itself, content itself can be crave worthy. The style of writing and the language that you use can be crave worthy. If you read my stuff, it is not pedantic English 101. And we'll get to why I had to fire five editors later. Okay. It is Roy's voice. It is edgy. Okay. It uses perhaps some words that people don't automatically relate to. So it could be tough reading. That's fine. I want you to work at my shit.
Yep.
And it could be appearance wise. I mean, I use the skull on every one of my books, Be Different or Be Dead. What better representation of the ultimate consequence of not being different than a skull? Come on.
Yeah.
So there's lots of opportunities, content, style, appearance, language. There's a lot of opportunities to consider, but those were just sort of categories that, upon reflection, kind of worked for me. They may not work for you. It's what's important to you and the people that you actually want to target. As it relates to content, what I discovered is, like, my primarily who group, okay, are what I would call progressive business leaders who have a thirst for growth. That's pretty specific. By the way, I don't
Love
want
that.
just any business leader. I don't want any
Yeah.
business leader, because if you're not interested, if you're not awake at night worrying about how you're going to grow, I don't want you. You're not in my target market. You're not even going to understand chapter one. But if you are a person, right, that sweats all night long because you're not growing, that's the person I want. And so what these people wanted, I discovered, or craved, was they wanted, first of all, proven solutions. They didn't have the time to read books and deal with the theoretical mumbo jumbo. And welcome to Roy. As soon as I hear that, I'm your man, right? Secondly, they wanted practical things, things that they could do tomorrow with people, with bias, with bigotry in business, with regulation, the real world, okay?
Yep.
Not all things, not this Keynesian economic sort of vision that says all things remaining equal. It doesn't. The things aren't equal, and yet still we need to play in a red ocean, not a blue ocean, and be successful, right? We
Yep.
could do a whole show on red oceans, by the way. So they wanted practical and they wanted simple. And so the content that I just went, oh my God, this resonates so well. So they loved the language, they loved the pitchiness of the style and the appearance of, so it resonated. And as a result, it's no surprise that people are enjoying it. And that's the main thing for me. Everybody can do that. Okay, but it's more about thinking of how your stuff lands on them as opposed to pushing your stuff at them. And
Sure.
so I've written an awful lot about product flogging, which I consider to be the most disgusting marketing technique in the world. And yet, I mean, many, I would say most people are in the product flogging business. We need to be in the demand creation business, okay, in
Okay.
the craving satisfying business. So think about that. You're writing your book. I want to know what craving you're trying to satisfy. A
Right.
craving. And if you say, I don't know yet, I said, okay, there's a way to figure that out. Let's go back. Let's figure out how big. Let's figure out the who. Now let's figure out the craving. Get your only statement. Now let's go to work. You got to
Right.
put in the work, right?
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
be just any other author or any other publishing house. I mean, this opportunity is there for everybody. Everybody. If only we would dip our toe in it and have a go and break away from those chains that actually bind us and really aren't helpful.
Yeah.
Put the textbook down, guys. Put it down.
Right. I love
Take
that,
mine down.
especially like in the publishing industry. It's such a popularity game. And so when you do stand out, that's when you're seen in the first place. So being able to find a way to do that for yourself where you feel good about it and you're connecting to your readers in a way that, satisfies them, satisfies you. That's awesome. I love that.
That's nirvana. That's nirvana. That's what we're all
Yeah.
trying to achieve. Like
Yeah.
that, you've just described the sort of utopian transaction process.
Right.
Okay, people wouldn't think about it that way, but that's it. We normally think about delivering stuff, getting paid. No, let's talk about transacting value, right? And enjoyment and benefits and experiences and happiness. We are in a happiness transaction business. When you read your book, when somebody reads your book, I think they should be, well, first of all, surprised. And that's a great element in terms of cravings. You surprise them, they go, whoa, I didn't expect that. Good, I gotcha, right? To
Yeah.
give somebody what they don't expect. And if they can get enjoyment and happiness out of something like that in a world that we have today, that's a good day.
That's good. Yeah. Do you think so? What you just said there kind of had my wheels turning. Do you think a good place for authors to kind of start to figure out like maybe some of the cravings that their audience has without even speaking to them would be to go into like reviews of their books and see if any like specific terms start really popping out that are repetitive so that then that okay, it's because they got surprised. The twists and turns were big. Like should they kind of mind those reviews a little bit as well?
That's a great idea. That's
Okay.
a really simple, practical way to start the process. And yeah, I mean the world today, particularly in the young and middle aged demographic, are spending more time doing reviews, which is a great thing for us as suppliers of content. I mean, if
Right.
we would only just sort of mine it and dig it up, that's a great place to start. Absolutely.
Cool.
And a lot of the chat groups are good as well. Information comes from crazy places. I mean, I was once
Right.
running for a strata council board in Maui, and when I was running, people were talking about everybody who was running for a board position, and they were talking about me, and I started learning things about how I was perceived. Right? And I go,
Right.
oh, gee, that's a problem. I didn't realize that. Oh, that's great. They got that. So just this stuff, and that stuff manifests through your writing. It
Yeah.
does. You can't help it, right? It
Yeah.
exudes you through the keyboard, which is
Yep.
good, great
Absolutely.
idea. Great idea. 10 out of 10 on that idea.
Woohoo. Okay, so for authors who are obviously looking to expand and grow, and sometimes that means having and building a team like a PA or, someone that they're going to be working closely with in order to elevate their careers, you have this thing called goosebump hiring. It's a great concept, by the way. But what qualities, should authors be looking at when it comes to collaborations and ensuring that they're not just competent, but also share a vision that gives them those goosebumps, like gives everyone involved goosebumps?
Yeah, so the whole goosebump notion was created because I had to figure out a way how to hire people that basically loved Homo sapiens. Like the problem
Not my husband.
the problem with the challenge we had going from a monopoly into a competitive powerhouse was a transition of culture that was required away from taking orders into serving people. So that whole service
Yeah.
experience kind of challenge, I had to figure out a way how to get through. And if I couldn't do that, we would never build the business the way we had to build it. And so I reasoned that you can teach customer service people, you can teach them and train them in terms of how to smile. You can train them how to have a smile in their voice, but you can never train them to love Homo sapiens. Okay, they're born with a gene. They have DNA running through their system that says, I really exist here and find it comfortable, and I desire to take care of you. That's who I am. Some people find that idea repugnant. Well, I got here. I didn't get here serving anybody. I got here by telling people what to do. Too bad. Okay, you stay with that and we'll see you in failure. And that's what's going to happen. Today,
Right.
leadership in every aspect of a business, authors or whatever, is all about serving people. Okay, it starts out with can you identify the people that have the DNA and the gene running around? And so I came up with this crazy idea. This was Roy's recruitment process that actually got my HR folks just like insanely critical of it, and it's called hiring for Goosebumps. So what I would do is it was like we had a panel interview process, right? So I'm the president of the company. I'm involved in every customer service hire. Now, these are union people. They could be management people. So I'm there at the table with people in my organization and the candidate. Well, you can imagine how intimidating that must have been for the candidate showing up to get a serve rep position. And here's the president et al. Across the table. Well, I sat next to them because they didn't want to conducting the interview. And so my first question was a really simple one. I would say, Carissa, do you love human beings? And I would wait. And what you would do typically is if you were leaning in, you were suddenly leaning back, wondering what the hell. I mean, this is
Who is
interesting.
this guy?
Who is this guy and where is this? I know this is a trick question, but I don't know where it's going. And so they would say, yeah, yes, Roy, I love human beings. I go, good. Okay, now the second question is, okay, tell me a story that would prove it.
I have two
So,
kids.
so, so two things would happen, right? The people
Yeah.
that intellectually got it would give me a story that was kind of boring and superficial and phony, and they would be ushered outside the door because I didn't care about their competencies and technical skills. That's not what I can teach those. What I can't teach is this human being lover thing. But the person, and I guess I get goosebumps every time I remember some of these things. The person that really got it, that existed for the sole reason, okay, innately to take care of other people, would tell me a story that was rich in passion, emotion, and caring, and just total integrity, right? And it would just like it's doing right now. It would give
Yeah.
me goosebumps. I go, boom, you're in. I'll teach you the business because you know the essentials of taking care of people. Well, you know what? People would say, what? That's the craziest thing. I've never read anything about that in a textbook. And I said, well, there's a reason for that. Okay, I'm a
Yeah.
practitioner. I'm a leader guy in the trenches. Okay, our objective is to get things done in a way that people actually like doing it. So this whole notion, and by the way, it's spread. And my teammates, now after seeing it for a while, guess what they started to do? They started to practice it. They got into hiring for Goosebumps, and it spread and it spread and it got organic like a virus in a way, right? So we got this population of human being lovers actually growing in the company. Look at anybody can do this. You can do it to hire teammates. You can do this to hire people that work for you in the publishing business. If what you want is an employee, okay, whose job it is to create gasp worthy experiences for people, this tool is for you. It's as simple as that. Because isn't that what we want to do? We want people who are surprised, breathless, left gasp worthy, telling people and friends and writing reviews. That's what we want, right? In
Yeah.
our who. We want them the who to behave that way. And so we need to confront them with people with the human being lover gene. And this is a simple little way that could work for you. Look at I had a large organization. This was not easy work for me personally. I mean, I would come home at night and my wife would say, oh my God, have you been out and about again? And I go, yeah, we were doing Goosebumps today. And she says, did you find any? And I said, yeah, I had, and I got to the point, right? Where I could stratify the degree of emotional response that I felt. So it was a goosebump level 1, goosebump level 2, goosebump level 3.
I love it. I love that she even knew that though. Like, what level
I
was it, honey?
I know, and of course it was in the analog days where I started, so I had no way to describe it other than goosebump level 1, 2, and 3.
I love
Today, people
that.
would say, "Well, Roy, can you be a little more precise?" And I go, "No,
Nope. You
you
just,
just
when you know,
you
you know. You know?
right." That's
Yep.
exactly right. You know when you know. So that
Oh,
was
too
it. So
fun.
anybody can do that, but it really requires a person or in this case a public. You need to declare the culture that you want. So
Mm,
this is a tactic that bleeds into a culture of creating gas-worthy service experiences for their who.
yeah. Well,
And
and
by the
I even
way,
think like in a PA, because a lot of authors, especially indie authors, the first hire that they're going to have is their PA. And a lot
yeah,
of times we're just like, I just want them to do the things that I no longer want to do, right? But is that really like you at the core of it, you want them to be as excited about your books and your brand and everything that you're doing as you are. So it's almost like you need to have that really excited reader as your PA also. Do they really
oh,
love what they're doing? Instead of
absolutely
just
right.
like, take my social media. you
No,
know?
they need to be an extension of your venous and arterial structure biologically. They need to get everything you have. So if you have being different running through your veins, they need to feel that. So you need to give them a transfusion.
I love that.
Never thought of that before, by the way. You got two out of me today. Two
Sweet.
brand new, yes. So they need a transfusion, so they need to get you.
Yeah.
You can't delegate the irrelevant stuff to them. You need to delegate the relevant stuff to them because they are you in
Yeah.
this case.
Yeah, I get what you're saying for sure. Okay, so speaking of that, kind of a segue into that, it's like the writing and publishing process can often be really bogged down by unnecessary complexities and outdated conventions, which we obviously have talked about a bit. But how can
Sure.
authors cut the crap, as you call it, to streamline their process and focus more on what truly matters?
Yeah, so what truly matters, of course, is described by what? The cravings of the who. So
Yeah.
that's where you start. Okay, so if you know that in intimate detail, it serves as a microscope on your own organization internally. And so you should be able to, or it should give you insights in terms of the processes that are critical, right? That are broken or that are good, and we just need to manage and measure them. So, in other words, it kind of gives you a window on your inside that should lead you to what cleansing agents are required, if I can put it that way, right?
Okay. Okay.
And so if you actually focus that way, you get a lot more meaningful results. What I would not recommend is having kind of like a process re-engineering approach to it, which is typically inside out. You need to think about it in outside in, is my point. So be
Okay.
guided by what the who tells you about the pinch points in your operation, right? Don't listen to somebody who's having a problem inside with it, because you may have to say, well, get over it, right? I'll try and do, some improvements, but fundamentally it's getting an A from the who, and so we're staying with it, but we'll tweak it a little bit. What you really want to do is identify the potential disaster points in your processes, and you want to focus on those first. You can't do everything. So pick one that the who is saying, this keeps, every time I do business with you, it drives me crazy, you need to fix this. Start there and then go back and tell them what you've done. So bring them into your organization or into your inside, which I've always found to be a remarkable thing to do. When you ask somebody who's your customer to help you, they fall over backwards. They feel honored that you're even asking them the question, and they feel good about themselves because you think they have value that they can provide you. And
Yeah.
people, that's at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want to feel relevant and valued, and that goes to customers. So start there. And so you're going to end up with a whole bunch of ideas, okay, from the who and maybe other stakeholders. Suppliers are an other great source of input. And then what you have to do, at least what worked for me, is I would have a list of all of the sort of current activities and processes, et cetera, et cetera. And we would categorize them into two lists. One was a keep list, and one was a cut list. We tried to make the cut list as long as we could and the keep list as short as we could, because the natural tendency is to try and justify everything that people do as
Oh,
being
sure.
required,
Yeah,
right? So once you have the strategy and the context, it was relatively easy to say, okay, this one fits strategy, so it goes on the keep list. This one doesn't, put it on the cut list. Now, for an organization like I had, I mean, it was a large organization, so the projects that were on the cut list represented opportunities for me to reduce operating expenses because they were
sure.
delivering non-strategic output. So why am I doing that? And so I didn't have to hire as many new people. So this was the benefit, is actually take the savings out of the cut list projects and hire relevant resources that fit within the new strategy. And so, but and anybody can do that. It's not a large company, small company thing. It's an individual thing. Everybody operates with a process. Everybody affects a who with a process. Just figure out where the problems are and fix them, and then tell people that you fixed them, and measure what you fixed, and make sure that it was a real solution. Because sometimes you run into problems. So that's what I did.
That makes total sense. I love that. Okay, so the creative process and the business of publishing are always chaotic. They're not just they can be, but they're always chaotic. How can authors and publishers like ensure that they maintain a clean inside, as you call it, focusing on integrity and authenticity in their work?
Authenticity, I think, in the question is the key for me, because it's a concern and a challenge that I think we all have, and we've talked a little bit about it earlier. I mean, to me, authenticity is that you have, in math terms, a homeomorphic fit between you and what the who craves. So just let me repeat that. Okay, authenticity isn't what you think it is, right? It's the degree to which your craving satisfaction fits with the who.
Right.
Okay, so it's that. So it needs to be a tight, close fit. If you can achieve that close fit, so that what you are delivering is consistent with what they're craving, that's authenticity. Okay, and so the key is the challenge is, how do you get there? We've spoken a little bit about this before. You don't get there by gargling Google. You
Right.
do not get there by copying. You do not get there by aggregative tools like artificial intelligence. You
Yeah,
just
because
don't.
it's more personal. It's more about you and the core of you. Yeah.
It's more about you and how you fit with what your who has told you they craved. Okay,
Right.
so in other words, it's not a marketplace issue. It's not a mass market issue. And as soon as you have a tool that's based on aggregation, like artificial intelligence, you're already all automatically in a herd space. You can't go there because you're going to end up providing someone else's solution to a problem that your who has, and it will miss the mark. It,
Oh,
it
sure.
will. It has no way of winning. Okay, so figure out what that fit is and talk about your quest and your journey to achieve that fit. Okay, so if you have customers, you want to say, look, I mean, I know I'm not there yet, but the culture I'm trying to have for myself, okay, the fingerprints that I'm trying to create for myself in my work is to be as close to what you crave, different language, as possible. Because I believe that's the only way I can be authentic to you and have you say, hey, you're the real thing. Roy, you're the real thing. And the only way that they will ever say that is if they can see, first of all, that I'm on the journey, I care about the journey, and I'm sort of getting there. You know, humans are actually quite amazing. They don't expect you to get 100% of this stuff right anyways. They know it's an imperfect world. All they want to see is effort. So
And sometimes I think they
authenticity.
feel a little bit like, off standoffish by people who they think are perfect because they know it doesn't exist. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. Oh, I
Yeah.
know exactly what you mean. I mean, yeah, we teach people that perfection is the holy grail, don't we?
Right? And
Don't
why
we
is
do
that?
that?
That's
Of
crazy.
course we do that. And I used to say, I'm going to be imperfect fast. My strategic advantage is I'm going to be the most imperfect person as fast as I can be. Because what that means is I'm trying a lot. And if I'm learning as I go, I'm going to converge upon that solution faster than anybody else. And it's a function of being imperfect fast. Tons of blogs I've written on that. I mean, it's just like part of people look at that and go, oh, no, how can we do that? You're actually teaching imperfection. I said, yep, I am. Do you think
Yeah.
Michael Jordan was a perfect basketball player? Right? Do you think some of these guys like Lionel Messi is a perfect footballer? No, they're not. They just score more because they try more and they're
Sure.
imperfect more. And so
Yeah.
why can't we transform that philosophy into what we do every day? I'll tell you why, because we are so guided and influenced by teachings that we can't break loose of that. Going
Sure.
back to that theme, I'm sorry, but we just are. We need to empower ourselves. That was another notion, I guess, we could chalk up to fingerprint leadership, is is
Yeah.
the is the right to empower ourselves to break away, putting our fingerprints on ourselves, right? And our motivation to break away. Man, I'd love to see a bunch of breakaways. I'd like to see the people who are now sitting in that glut in the middle of the bell distribution curve. You know what I'm talking about, that
Yeah.
goes at the bell curve.
Yeah.
I want to see 5% of those moving to the right towards the be different access. Can you imagine what would happen in our economy and our culture and the narratives of the day if we had 5%, not 20%, but just 5% moving to the right? Can you
That'd be
imagine the
amazing.
joy? Wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
Thank you. It would
Yeah.
be amazing. But see, that's the challenge you and I have, is to try and get people to understand the beauty of going there, right?
Yeah.
Help take the risk away by showing them proven ways to do it.
Well, it's almost
Simple
like that.
things.
It's that fear-based thing, because obviously we've got the whole social structure aspect where it's like we don't want to be so different that we get ostracized from our group, right? But the ironic part is the people who are idolized are the ones that do that, and so it's like we're such weird rationalizers when it comes to that.
Well, it's a function of populism, quite frankly,
Sure.
because the quest is we want to be popular, we want to be part of the movement.
Mm.
Well, be different is exactly the antithesis of that. It's to create a different movement,
Yeah.
right? And even when you do that, you better be careful, because at some point in time, that's going to turn into another narrative herd that you want to deviate from. And so
Right.
it's a constant revolution. I love your title. It is a
Yeah.
revolution. At the moment, it's stagnant. And I only use harsh words to convey my concern about where we are versus where I think we need to go.
I am so
And
there with you. I think that's why Author Revolution exists, because for me, it's like it's always been about finding the next thing to try, going into new places, doing new things, not being afraid to fail, not being afraid to check new ideas, not being afraid to disrupt anything really. And it's
uh,
all about, us being able to think differently and view different perspectives. And I love that concept. It's always been a part of who I am as a person. And now I'm gonna have to incorporate that into my only statement.
thank you. I hope so. And I'm here to help you. Look at
Yay!
Take advantage of me. I'm here to be had.
That's
But you know what? The
awesome.
more I'm the more I'm thinking about what we're just talking about, this notion of you lit me up. The more I think about this notion of fingerprint leadership, the more, particularly in the business we're talking about here, the more relevant it is. And I'm going to do some more thinking about it, because I think we could probably have a deeper dive into talking about what that means, what it implies, what are the behaviors that are required, okay, and how do we measure success in fingerprint leading ourselves? Oh, I never thought of that either. Because that to
Right?
me, that's pretty good. I got to write that down. You got a minute?
You'll have to re-listen to this later and then remind yourself.
Okay. Okay, that's a good. I'll do that. I promise.
Really? Because I don't ever listen to myself again recorded. I'm always
Yeah,
like, nope, nope, we're good. That's fine.
it's hard. It's hard. I agree with you. It's hard to
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Oh, funny. Okay, so I got to ask you this question about dumb rules, because I had to giggle when I was like kind of researching and found this. And I know that the publishing industry has plenty of dumb rules. So, based off of what you've observed of the literary industry, how can challenging these types of conventions lead to innovation and success for authors?
So first of all, before I answer the question, I just want to explain why the dumb rule, what it is, and why it was relevant to me. Okay, so dumb rules is kind of one of the cleansing agents that I use to make it easier to deliver to customers. Okay, who are always saying, "Oh, we hate the rules and processes and procedures that you have. They make no sense to me." They yell and scream, and they leave us because they're so dumb. Employees hate them because they're forced to say no to customers
Right?
because they've
I
got
just
dumb
had a
rules. So
dumb
they're
rule thing happen last night. I went to Walmart of all places and I got 3 gift cards. They wouldn't sell me a second one in the same transaction because it was the same gift card. So 2 Apple gift cards for Easter. They were $10 for my kids. I'm like, I have 3 kids. I'm buying gift cards for you. Won't sell. And then they would let my husband go to the next register over and buy one. What a dumb rule. Like, really?
exactly, and they're all over the place. And so the
Yeah.
reason that they're important, certainly in my particular case, is when we were able to either kill them. So I had this thing called kill dumb rules. And again, people got a little concerned about the wording. And I said,
Language.
fine, I'll call them kill stupid policies. See, I never changed the word that they thought. So,
Love it.
yeah. So the reason they were so important is they prevented execution. And so I looked at it not as a cool thing to do, but as an element that if I could improve, it would enhance the execution, okay, of the business, and it would kick performance of revenues. So this was all strategic on my part, and it was
Yeah.
like in the same portfolio as cut the crap, a
Yep.
cleansing
Yep.
agent. And so we had a whole bunch, and I had dumb rules competitions, right? We had dumb
Cute.
rules committees, right? And management's job was to make sure that the recommendations coming from the dumb rules committees were implemented. And so we would measure ourselves in terms of how many rules we killed, how many we changed, because we couldn't kill them all. We had regulatory, but we could make them more customer friendly. And, we changed the engagement process, et cetera, et cetera. So then laterally worked like hell. I'd show up in a white T-shirt with dumb rules written on it with a big X through it. I'd be in the workplace of customer service and sales and marketing, and I'd be walking around at 7 o'clock in the morning with this stuff, and they go, "Oh, here comes Roy and his dumb rules." And I would ask the question, "Okay, what dumb rules have we killed in the last 5 days?" So it got known that this was an important thing for us. This wasn't just something to play around with. It was a strategic concept they eventually got. So then I end up writing my first book years later called Be Different or Be Dead, Your Business Survival Guide. It's a hardcover book, and I wrote it in 2009. Okay, so I had a local publisher who I was working with, and so I was submitting content. The good news is I didn't know how to create Word files in that day, and I still don't know, and I didn't have to in that day, which is another thing we can talk about. In any event, I started getting material back from the editor, okay, that was completely unacceptable. I mean, I would read stuff and I didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
Okay, so in other words, what the editing function completely obliterated my voice. Like I have a very unique voice when it comes to talking, and the biggest thing about writing is the ability to preserve that. And it's really hard, as you know, to preserve it.
Yep.
That's why I use language and crazy, setup and everything else to kind of preserve the notion. But I happen to have an editor who was a graduate in English 101. Okay. And so what I would get back would be literally a translation of my content into English 101. Right. And I would
Oh.
look at it. Yeah, I'm the wrong guy to do that to. So I'd look at it, look at that. I objected. I went through 5 editors on that first book until
Oh,
we
wow.
finally found somebody who had the foresight to actually sit down with me, listen to me talk for a while, and then went away and did the editing function, right? I call that enlightened editing. The
Yeah.
reason that I put that an example into the dumb rule category is because that individual was influenced by a set of references that were completely inappropriate to me, right? She
Yep.
was doing what the industry wanted to do. The use of language would never say shame on you. Oh, there goes your AI tool again. Would never say stuff like that. And what would actually give back what she thought was the right thing. There was a definition of how English majors would do it. And so, being steeped in that sort of tradition without an understanding again of what I craved was keep my voice, please.
Yeah.
That's my fingerprint. Please keep it. If not, you're fired. Okay. So and I'll keep going through this. My publisher was going crazy because she was running out of editors.
Yeah.
You know what? I finally got to the point where I said, I tell you what, I'm done. Okay, we're publishing it exactly as it is. Okay, imperfections or not, because don't forget, I'm the imperfect guy, right?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
care. And guess what? Yes, there was a spelling mistake or two. Did anybody notice it? I did after I went through it after it was published. But you know what? I mean, so it didn't affect the results, is
Yeah.
the point. It didn't satisfy my cravings, didn't affect the results. And yet it was so important. That was a dumb rule. And so I would say to the industry, just check yourself back on all these traditional processes and precepts that are in play. And do me one favor, go to your who, ask them what they crave, ask them if they think this is an important thing for you to adhere to. And guess what they will say? And just be led by that. That's all. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't want you to blow up the industry, but let's make it relevant. Dumb rules are a way to increase relevancy, I think. And we just need more people paying attention to it. AI is a dumb rule when it comes to creating content for authors who want to be creative. There,
Oh
I've said
yeah.
it. It's a
Yeah.
dumb rule. Okay, it may have other applications. Fine, I accept that. Go find them. But why are we sitting in a world where we take a sexy piece of technology and try to apply it to everything? Does that make any sense to you?
No.
Makes
No.
absolutely no sense at all. Okay, apply it where it has relevance. And for heaven's sakes, don't apply it where it does. Like, do you have any idea how I react to chat bots when I run into them?
I bet you run the other direction. Shut off. Boop.
I got to tell you, like it's a great example of a problem looking for or a solution looking for a problem.
Yeah.
Somebody actually thinks that artificial intelligence can solve my unique question on a website.
Right.
How dumb can these people be? And how inappropriate is it and disingenuous is it for them to think that they can prescribe an answer to you when you
Yeah.
show up on a website? It's just crazy. And yet every day I read another article this morning. Now I'm starting to get spammed, right, by AI developers. And they're trying to convince me that I need to read this article and that article about how the customer service experience can be enhanced using AI tools. Come on,
That's
come
funny.
on,
And
come
they're like,
on.
we will convert him.
That's well, yeah, but you know what? I'm a Viking, so you know, fill your boots. It's going to take you a while. You got
I
to be
love
a
that.
better man than I am, Gunga Din, to get me off my stuff. That's it. And you can't be throwing
This is
AI
the hill you're
bullets
gonna
at me.
die on. Okay. Oh, too funny.
Anyways, that's fun.
Okay, so finally, in the context of creating content that is compelling, right? How can
Yeah.
authors apply the yummy taste and spit philosophy that you have to experiment with ideas and genres? Like, I want to make sure that their ideas and the way that they produce them are fresh and like cool, right? And I love I love the yummy taste and spit. Like, how do they incorporate that?
See, that's as opposed to yummy, taste and swallow, you see. That's that's the juxtapose, because there is
That
some
that
yummy,
is
it turns out, that are worth pursuing. So the whole idea here is again, and by the way, the use of yummy, taste, and spit is a classic example of how I use language to get people to ask the question, what is that all about? And it allows me to give them get into a conversation.
right.
Nobody talks like that. In fact, the only people I hear from is spit. And when I say swallow, I get a completely different set of narratives coming back. Anyway,
That's
just
so I got plenty of romance authors. They're like, what's wrong with that? It's great.
oh,
It's fine.
oh no, I didn't mean to go there. So what yummy does, it's kind of my word of saying, as soon as you have your strategy all put together and you know what your context is, you know what your only statement is, you know what your who group is, you know what they crave, as soon as you put that to bed and you start implementing actions to see it, to breathe life into it, something happens. Something comes over the transom, right? Another customer comes at you and so forth, and they're asking you to consume resources for them. Okay. It's been my experience that a lot of times they represent a non-strategic influence. And I ended up calling that yummy. You know what yummy is, right? It tastes so good. It looks so good. Let's chase it and
Yeah.
taste it and see what it tastes like. Hence, you're either going to swallow it or spit it out. So the yummy is dysfunctional activities that force you off your strategy. Okay. And we need to learn to, first of all, understand what it is. And we can do that if we have a context, right, within which to evaluate the incoming. And if it's not on strategy, we spit it out. We just get rid of it because all it does is consume cycles and work that takes you away from your basic strategy. On the other hand, there can be stuff coming in that actually is relevant. And that's what I say, taste it and swallow it, keep it, right? And integrate it into the kinds of activities that you do. Everybody is confronted with yummy, whether you're an individual author, whether you're a publication house, a small business, or large corporation. There are always things that hit you unexpectedly that are intended to take you off your game. You
Mhm.
need kind of like a filter. And think about this yummy taste and spit as a filter for discarding the things that are irrelevant to your strategy. And it requires a lot of discipline, by the way, to actually do this because some of this yummy, as I say, it's like chocolate cake. You just want to eat it and eat it and eat it. And I've had several clients that have gone out of business because of the fact that they chased yummy. I mean, this one client had this technology that was incredible in terms of it was a piece of security technology, wireless, and he was developing it for that application. And as soon as he started producing it, in came a whole bunch of other businesses that said, "Hey, this is a cool technology. Why don't you apply it in my industry? Why don't you apply it in mine?" So instead of sticking to a strategy, he started chasing all these
Mhm.
other industry groups, right? And as a result, because he had limited resources, right, he got spread too thin and eventually ran out of business because he consumed all his resources chasing yummy. And it was actually that example, now that I think about it, that actually I think provoked me into thinking about part of the planning implementation process this way. I didn't tag it yummy until later on, but it just seemed to fit.
Sure.
So if for everybody out there, we all have it, we're all faced with it. Do you have the courage to taste it and spit it out? That's what yummy's all about.
Gotcha. So kind of like you can try it, but it doesn't have to keep you like splitting your focus and doing all sorts of things. Is that what I'm getting at?
Well, you can taste it. I don't want you to. So when I say
Okay.
you can take a look at it, no. Okay, if you're
Okay.
going to take 2 or 3 weeks to assess it, no. Take a taste, make a call, and just get on with it. Okay, and
Gotcha.
and and the first call should be if you have to know your strategy really well. Okay, you have to know what the implications are. So when a potential yummy comes at you, you should be able to say, no. If you even say, no, spit it out.
Okay.
If your eyes widen and go, whoa, okay, then maybe. The other thing I will say is give yourself a stopwatch, okay, to evaluate this, okay? Either dismiss it right off and look at what's the worst
Okay.
that can happen. The worst that can happen is later on, 2 years from now, you're presented with the same yummy and you actually recognize the benefits. Okay, you lost 2 years.
Sure.
How would you have known 2 years ago that it was going to have that potential? So
That
be
kind
a
of
little
remind
kind to yourself.
I like the way you describe it too, and I've heard it described a little bit differently. One of my author friends calls it like if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. So like when you have different ideas coming at you, different things that you're trying to think about, maybe it's switching to a new genre or something along those lines. Like it's if you've got that hell yes, then try it, give it a whirl. But if it even if it's just like a I'm not quite sure, then it's a hell no.
Yeah, and the only that's a really good filter. I think it would work. The only thing I would say with even with the hell yes is if you decide to chase the hell yes, you have an obligation to go back and revisit your strategy because you cannot leave the strategy the way it is and pursue a hell yes without going back and integrating and giving it
Yeah, yeah.
meaning within the context that you have. That would be the only thing I would say.
Well, sure, because like for myself, I'm an urban fantasy, paranormal fantasy author, but I've recently added rom-com. And so it's like I have to have different who's to be able to send my
Yep.
rom-coms to than my urban fantasy. So understanding how those things integrate and
Yep.
incorporate into who I am, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. I like that a lot. Well, Roy, thank you so much. Where can my audience go to find out more about your books, about who you are? Like if they wanted to get in touch with you to be able to, have a discussion, where do they go?
So thank you very much for having me on, by the way. I really, really enjoyed it. There's a few resources I have a website, bedifferentorbedead.com.
Love it.
And I actually, yeah, surprise,
Right?
implemented in 2009 when I started the writing journey that I'm on. It's got resources. I blog weekly, so the blog resources there, and it's got current content, just like having conversations like this. I learned new stuff about my content every time out. It just different avenues and sort of things, dimensions expose themselves to me. So it's current. I try and do it weekly. There's information on my 7 books with my latest, which is Be Different or Be Dead: The Audacious, Unheard of Ways I Took a Startup to a Billion in Sales. Information's on there on that as well. I actually have a podcast.
Yay!
Yes, it's called Audacious Moves to a Billion.
Love
So you
it.
can check me out on Audacious Ways to a Billion. And I do a lot of guesting as well, and I enjoy it so much. And lastly, my email address is roy.osing@gmail.com. And I'm really happy, okay, to have a conversation with anybody on this stuff. So you said earlier you're going to create your only statement. So we need to have a conversation, and I'd
Right?
be happy to help out,
Oh,
okay?
thanks,
I'd be
Roy.
more than happy to help out.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here, being such an awesome guest. I know my audience is going to be blown away when they hear this. So thank you.
You're so kind. Thank you. I'm honored to actually been asked to speak with your audience because, like, I know everybody's time is precious, and to be allowed to do this makes my day. So thank you.
Well, there you have it, my friends. Roy has just lit a fire under my butt. I'm not kidding. There's been so much going on this year when it comes to Author Revolution and me and my inner work trying to figure out where I stand, what I'm standing for, what I want Author Revolution to do, what I want it to be as I go forward. Like when I started Author Revolution, it's been 5 years, guys, 5 years today when this podcast episode airs. And I didn't know what I was getting at. I didn't know what I was trying to accomplish. I just knew I needed to teach something. And I knew that my audience, my people were authors at that point in time. And now over the years, as I continue to develop things, as I continue to grow, I'm realizing that my message is a lot bigger and broader than just indie authorship, right? And so while I haven't made any direct decisions to pivot yet, I am in the process of actually pivoting my business. And so I'm not dropping Author Revolution by any means, but I'm pivoting the way I want to show up in the world, the people I want to talk to. I'm elevating who I'm trying to call in to Author Revolution. And I'm realizing that those people are not just indie authors, right? There's a lot of people who could benefit from the things that I'm teaching. And so I'm going to be, and you'll probably start seeing some rebrandings going on. You'll start seeing some stuff coming out that's going to look a little bit different. And it's not just because of Roy's information, but a lot of it actually inspired some real deep interesting information. And so I'm going to give you like a little tiny taste of what this has done for me. Now, one of the things I'm looking at rebranding is my YouTube channel, because in the past, when I first started it, it was not really, it was kind of an afterthought. I'm not going to lie. Like it was, okay, it's another one of those platforms I know I should be posting on. So I'm going to sync up this thing to that thing and just kind of let it go on like automation and do its own thing. But the more I'm thinking about my audience and the more I'm thinking about who I'm trying to call in, the more I want to be deliberate with my YouTube channel. And so one of the things that I'm going to be doing is transitioning it from being like my personal YouTube channel where it's like Carissa Andrews, and then I put and dump in just like all the Author Revolution things, and I'm dumping in like audiobooks and things like that. They're still going to be there. It'll have its own like little playlist, but the rebrand is coming. And I'm going to give you a little taste with my only statement for my YouTube channel. Okay. So the new YouTube channel name is going to be Write Your Reality. Now, for those of you who know, my book that's coming out later this year is going to be called Write Your Reality. It's my next nonfiction title. It's the one that's going to be including manifestation, quantum manifestation, all the things. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to do a Kickstarter later this year with it. But the platform itself, the idea behind what I want to do with the YouTube channel and how I'm going to lead it into Author Revolution comes down to Write Your Reality, because I love teaching manifestation. I love teaching quantum manifestation. I love mindset work. I love all the things. And that's where I want to focus for the most part going forward. I mean, I like AI and I like all the other things, and they'll still be including those in the discussions. It just won't be the bulk of the discussions, right? So, Write Your Reality, this is my only statement now. Write Your Reality with Carissa Andrews is the only platform fiercely dedicated to empowering female entrepreneurs and authors, including passionate fiction writers, to craft their books and manifest their dreams into reality. Our dynamic blend of manifestation magic, mindset mastery, and practical step by step writing and publishing guides delivers groundbreaking guidance, innovative strategies, and an unshakable community of support. Designed for ambitious women ready to break barriers and blaze new trails in both their personal and professional lives, our approach fuses cutting edge quantum physics and insights with actionable writing techniques. With Write Your Reality, female entrepreneurs and authors don't just achieve authority, they ignite transformation, reshaping their destinies and revolutionizing the world of publishing. Now, you might notice some language in that. I'm talking about female entrepreneurs and authors. Guys, I love you too. Don't worry. You can still listen to what I'm teaching, what I'm doing, all the things. But I've realized over the years that the bulk of my audience is female. And it's not just female because of the manifestation stuff, like even the other things that I'm teaching, the majority of the people who have come and found me that resonate with me are women. And so I'm going to lean into that rather than edge away from it as I open up to female entrepreneurs. And now, one of the things that I'm going to be adding to Author Revolution's repertoire or whatever you might have is going to be more nonfiction work, helping entrepreneurs to be able to learn or trust or create or publish their own books. So I want to start bringing them into my world. And then obviously they can go on to some of the courses and things that I already have created so that I can teach them how to publish, how to do audiobooks, how to manifest money through their books, whatever it might be. I just feel really called to open up my offerings, open up who I am, open up the field of possibilities, so to speak, quantum physics wise, and just allow myself to take that step a little bit more boldly into a broader spectrum. And so I'm going to be even looking at speaking at more entrepreneur based conferences. I'm going to be doing a lot of things in the coming months, years, whatever, that's going to branch me out of just indie authorship. As much as I love indie authors, and I so do, I have this like deep, profound calling that I'm meant to do more. And so there you go. That's your first, you hear it here first. No one else knows about this. I haven't told anyone else that the rebrand is coming for the YouTube channel yet. So if you start seeing some stuff for Write Your Reality and you're going, what the heck is this? Who the heck is this? What's happening right now? You're welcome. That's what it is. Now, Author Revolution is going to stay the same. Like I'm not changing the branding on that. I'm not doing anything in terms of trying to redefine what Author Revolution is. It's going to just be its own thing. I might eventually rebrand like covers and images so that there's more of a consistent theme, but as of right now, this is what it is, right? I just feel really called to do more, to be bolder somehow, to be more out there. Not just out there, like, woo, she's into woo and she's into AI, whatever, but like just, to be more out there. And I love the idea of being, being different or being dead. And Roy's talk about all of this just lit a fire under my butt and made me realize I want to stand out in a marketplace that is a little bit different. I want to be different because I feel I am different in a good way. At any rate, if you enjoyed this podcast interview, make sure you head over to authorrevolution.org/241. You can get the transcript, all of the links to Roy's information, all the stuff. And don't forget, there's a lot of stuff going on this summer. I know summer is a busy time, and so maybe it's difficult to be able to sign up for courses or to get in on master classes or even like our summer story awards, right? So there are 3 things going on right now. I just launched Own Voice audiobooks, and that also includes the AI Voice Craft, which is an add-on if you want to also learn how to do AI narration with 11 Labs. That's an option. It just launched on Monday. It's still open. You can still join us. It's not a closed thing. It's an evergreen course. So check that out. It will be in the show notes as well, obviously. There's a new masterclass that's going to be coming up in July. So on July 19th at 1 p.m., we're going to have a masterclass. It's going to be another Consult the Oracle. This particular one, though, is going to be consult the Oracle, and we're going to go over how to identify core wounds, like using ChatGPT, kid you not, on identifying core wounds and releasing them. Of course, we'll be talking about what core wounds are, why it's important to go in and heal them and let them go, or at least identify them so that you can see how it could be playing out in your life and how you would ultimately get yourself stuck. Yeah. So that is coming up. It's coming up on the 19th. Again, the link will be in the show notes. But then also the short story awards. Hits Different, right? Hits Different Short Story Awards. We are kicking this thing off. It's already the first month it's done, right? So if you want to get included in or get involved with a short story awards that's totally different from anything you've ever seen before, you're going to want to check this thing out. Hits Different is all about spending some time meditating before you start writing. Like you go into meditation with the intention of getting a really cool story idea for your short story. And the reason this is so important, the reason I'm doing this is because I want you to get a taste for what it's like to meditate daily. I want you to see how powerful it is. I want you to try it for yourself and start feeling the revelations when you start getting some cool insights. And some of them might not even be your story idea right away. You might get insights on other things like, oh, where did I put that one thing that I've been looking for? Or, oh, I should do this thing for my kid. Or, oh, this is how I could include something cool into my Facebook ads. You don't know what's going to come through in meditation. That's the fun part of it. Hits Different is all about learning to tap into that and then trusting when the information lands. So the short story awards do come with award prizes. They come with certificates. I want you to enjoy this process and to see just how transformational it is. So powerful. And if you listen to last week's podcast episode, you already know that, right? Because I talked about like what it's looked like 5 months later since I started my daily meditation routine. So I want you to get involved in that. It will also be in the show notes. Of course, if you ever get lost, if you're ever wondering where the heck things are, I do have a courses and memberships landing page. So if you go over to Author Revolution just by itself, you can click over to courses and it's going to give you like all the information. We've got memberships, guys. We've got masterclasses listed in there. We have all the courses. They link out to their prospective sales pages. So if you want more in-depth information on what that course is, you can go ahead and find more information on what that course is. So just dig around, see what's resonating with you. I've made it really easy to be able to find kind of the information you're looking for with a click of the button at the very top of the page, because I know there's a lot, guys. I can't help it. I love teaching. So there's a lot to choose from. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, Carissa at authorrevolution.org. I love hearing from my listeners. And of course, if you liked this podcast episode, if you like the podcast in general, number one, please, please, please review it. Review it on your favorite podcast platform, because your insights and discussions about how this podcast has touched your life is really powerful for others who are looking and listening to other podcasts like this, right? And number two, if you like this podcast episode, share it with a friend. Let them know that it exists, because I'm all about elevating. I'm about visibility this year. I'm about doing new things and asking for help. So I'm asking you now, share this podcast, share the podcast episodes that resonated the most with you to your friends, and let's revolutionize the world of publishing together. Okay? Well, you have your mission. Go forth and start your author revolution. Okay, indie author, Carissa Andrews with Author Revolution here. We need to have a chat. I know you want to build a sustainable long-term author career, but you can't do it just by wishing for it. It would be nice, yes, but alas, you gotta do the work. By that I mean you need to reframe the way you look at your author business so that you can write and publish more frequently. With Rapid Release Roadmap, my signature online course, I'll help you learn not only how to make writing and publishing 4 books a year seem easy, but I'll help you master your prolific author mindset so that you can clear away all the negative self-talk that's holding you back. Trust me, I have been there.
To learn more about Rapid Release Roadmap, head over to rapidreleaseroadmap.com. Over there, I'll give you all the insights on what you'll find inside the course. Plus, I walk you through all of the bonuses you're going to get based on the payment option you choose. And yes, there are some good ones in there, even if I say so myself. Once again, head over to rapidreleaseroadmap.com to learn more and sign up today.